Good morning, good day, everyone. Thank you for joining the fourth installment, is it, of the GTM Live for ExponentialX, joined by Bei and Holly today. And my name's Beatrice. I'll be helping moderate because I think Bei and Holly have some amazing PLG lessons learned. I do too, but this is, I feel like Grammarly, Slack, Loom have some amazing names to start off with as well. I'll be moderating, so if you have any questions, put in the chat. Happy to bring you up on stage as well, like what we did with Josh if you just saw it, just to speak more about our topics or ask the question and get to know us more. With that said, I'll hand it over, do some introductions, and start off with some spicy questions. Who wants to start on intros?
Okay, Holly, you want to start? I'll follow you.
Sure, I can start. I think PLG is a really interesting question because it was a very topic for the last few years, and every SaaS company wants to do PLG, and then there were different results in implementing PLG. So I think PLG in 2024 is at a very different stage. Some of PLG companies I worked at Loom, Miro, Slack, and it all have certain characteristics and have achieved a certain level of success, but there are others who didn't work so well. So I'm really excited to have a conversation with Bei and Beatrice today and just talk about how PLG has changed and how can companies to make it work or not choose to do PLG.
Sounds great. Hi everyone. This is Bei here. I work in a working Grammarly on the growth and data for a few years. And in the meantime, last couple months I've been working with a lot of smaller startups on the PLG drive. So I got a lot of questions on the full journey, right? Which part of the experience can be transferable? So I'm actually leaning more towards sharing what I observe, how the newer logos are leveraging PLG, more so than sharing the Grammarly story. I'll probably briefly touch based on that, just so we check the mark. I think there are plenty of blogs and sharing that, but I think some of the up and coming startups are really just maximizing the power. So I can't wait to maybe touch on a few of the framework and highlight a few companies, right, who are probably doing, frankly, I think 10x better than Grammarly already had. So happy to share that, and maybe if that could be of any reference, right, that would be a win for everyone.
And last but not least, it's me. Hi folks, I'm Beatrice Angel, based in San Francisco. My PLG story started, I think when PLG started getting its fame, and it was around 2016, 2017. I was leading growth at a place called TruStar, a security tool for analysts. And we moved into PLG when the founder led and just overall sales started to stagnate a little bit. And I think that's what we're seeing in cybersecurity, maybe infra and dev tools. But either way, I'm here to chat more about what I'm seeing now with open source to commercialization, especially in the dev and security space. That is now, I believe, the new product-led growth space, and then how that really is capitalizing in the enterprise sales cycle too. Holly, why don't we start with you in terms of, why is this still relevant? Why is PLG still relevant? We are hearing more about just different types of growth cycles. You saw Josh saying hell yeah to open source as a PLG type of tactic. What are you seeing now in the space, especially as we think about what ExponentialX is doing for some of our clients?
Why PLG is relevant. I think the general premise of PLG leading with great user experience and making it easy for users to access the product is still relevant, and more relevant than before. And I've seen new PLG products coming out every single day. Of course, like PLG is not for everyone. I think that like the trying to make it work and not being successful, in my personal opinion, is like the devil is in the details, and it's PLG is not something that you just slap on and you're going to get millions of users overnight. There are specific growth tactics and best practices that you can deploy to make PLG successful, but it does take time to design the experiments consciously and continuously to optimize, rather than, oh, this is a thing that like guarantees our success. And secondly, not every company is a good fit for PLG. PLG is great for a product that's easy to understand. The examples of the Slack and Loom and Miro of the world, they're easy to understand what it is, and Figma, right? Like they are easy to get started by users themselves. You don't need to have a barrier of entry, or it doesn't need IT department to approve your usage. And some of the SaaS products that tried PLG but that didn't see success, typically they have some sort of barrier for users to use. Either they need to connect a data source, or they need to have like approval internally, or like they need some sort of like internal, go over some sort of internal barrier in order to get value of the product. And I think those products are like a little harder to for the users, for the end users to see value of the product, and hence a much easier, much harder to make successful. So it's really case by case basis. It's not, PLG is not working. I think it's like it really needs to look into what's the audience and what's the product, and is there an audience product fit?
Audience product fit before product led growth. I love that. I know we don't need to make another acronym today in this live stream, but it sounds like it could be one. Speaking about audience market fit, Bei, coming from the Grammarly side, what was that audience market fit in terms of its first foray, and then what are the micro experiments that really brought us to now knowing Grammarly as this known brand that millions of folks use?
So yeah, let me see what's the best way to get to the question. So maybe what I can do, let me see what's the best way to take on this, right? So maybe I can just briefly spread out the journey and then address your question, right? So the well, start from the beginning. Quite a few folks, especially the earlier founders, were asking me, hey, what we can learn from Grammarly. So if we very simplify the journey, is there are really just a few chapters, right? In the beginning, Grammarly started in 2009 with really only just the student segments, right? So that's where pretty much from 2009 to 2015 and 16-ish is just the student app. It's just like a paid only app. So in that case, the company has been very focused on doing one thing, and that vertical focus has helped the brand getting so much attention. And it's not until really just sometime around 2016, the use case started to expand from a student into the professional. And then that's where the freemium become a thing. That's where the Chrome extension become a thing. So that unlocked the growth. But I know from some internal conversation, there was quite some anxiety. So frankly, it's both good that the company excited that we are finally able to break the ground to become a much bigger application, but there is also so much of anxiety at the time to say, hey, is that going to dilute, right? Is that going to be, especially when we open the gate, go from paid only to freemium, is that going to, right, destroy some of the paid members, right, and lose? I think Holly and I had a chat about that one. It's not easy. It's very difficult to go from paid only to freemium, but at the time, go back to the audience and market fit. And it applies at the situation, especially for professional, where the cases might not be so strong, having a freemium was a must at the time. Again, right now it's a nothing. Everyone knows how to use it, but going back in time, it was a still relatively new experiment at around that. And then if we highlight the probably the recent pivot back in 2019, that's really where the B2B starts. So after the company test out audience and market fit from the prosumer individuals or even the professional at the individual level, really the company didn't start the whole B2C to B2B transition almost 10 years after, right? It was founded knowing that the world is moving into the B2B space. So pretty much the accumulation at that and all started around the 2019, and it ties back to some of the interesting valuation numbers too, right? So Grammarly is the case where it didn't raise the money until very late. So when it was raising money in 2019, and that's when it's purely consumer business, right? The B2B hasn't really started. The valuation was 1 billion at the time. It's a public record, right? You can see it. And then 2 years after, right, 2019, as the company built up the B2B engine and gained enough of traction, the fundraising in 2021 or 22, I don't remember exactly the date, it jumped all the way to 13 billion. So right, so that gave a lot of data points for people to read about. Hey, how should you go from a very focused audience to market fit into the audience expansion and into the B2C and the B2B, and exactly how each of the action tie back to the valuation numbers, right? So I think right now, some of the questions I'm getting from a lot of the potential, right, either the current clients or potential clients is, right, how can we leverage that experience, but shorten the time frame and get to the success faster. So yeah, happy to touch on other things later on, but does that tie back to your questions, Beatrice?
Oh, I was just going off of that audience market fit. I could only think about students. Of course, I've used Grammarly for many other things, but how does that tie into what the company was looking for in terms of that growth? So I just wanted to hear that. Thought it was a great progression. That's all.
Yeah, like we talked about that before, and I wanted to pick that out. You mentioned about from the transition from free trial to freemium was not necessarily in a very easy decision. There are different opinions about it. I wonder if Grammarly has gone through that consideration, and how did you evaluate that decision? Was there concerns around cannibalization or decline of revenue? Recently Equal has the article about their failed attempt to change from a freemium to a free trial, from free trial to freemium. So curious on your take on this topic.
Yeah, I think you are referring to paid to free trial to freemium, right? So for Grammarly before, I don't think there was even a free trial, right? I think it's or it's probably just paid only at the time, or let's say free trial can fall into the same category because you can't use the free forever. So kind of the same thing, right? So the frankly, the decision was before me. I had the chance to ask a few long timers in the company about how the transition happened. The transition happened in 2015 and 16. So it wasn't possible to do any modeling. The pieces of information I was collecting is the company. It took a long time for the company to decide to go that direction, but it's really not so easily. It's not a number modelable, right? So glad the company took a leap of faith and cautiously watching the number be ready to roll back. I think that happens. Similarly, when I think I watched the similar action when Grammarly launched the Gen AI. Very, very anxious in watching the usage, fearing, hey, is our membership fee going to cover the cost, right? At the time, the token was pretty expensive, and Grammarly planning to charge extra fee like a Notion, right? Then I was very much in the working group, carefully talking to say, hey, well, if we put on this GenAI, well, at what point we're gonna really lose a huge chunk of money? What's the probability? Yeah, we did a model, it just doesn't work, right? Sometimes. So I don't know how much of reference there are, but I think if we take the equals as the example, it actually it gives us a better data point on what's suitable for freemium, what's not suitable for freemium. So I think Grammarly was successful with the freemium model simply because there are a lot of low intent users. It's a simple product, and low intent the ability to have the freemium is able to nurture, right, a community of people who know the product, who don't want to pay, but who might someday eventually pay for it. And also have that group of people doesn't burden the company in terms of the computation cost, because at the time Grammarly wasn't consuming the tokens. It was a self-proprietary model, right? It doesn't really cost, the marginal cost was pretty small. So it doesn't matter, and it doesn't destroy the matrix because you look at free, you look at paid, right? In overall, it doesn't have much of a downside. Whereas in the case of equals was a hardcore, right? In the article, I believe what I read is equals is a pretty hardcore data tool. You have to really serious about the tool in order to fully utilize it, and utilizing that consume the company's customer success team, the support team, and the computation power, right? In that case, right, having the free users could be a distraction to the company. So that in that case, it makes sense to gate a little bit. So you focus on the right customers. I think there are some other examples. I think I actually had an interesting conversation with Naira on this one. So yeah, you're absolutely right. It's a freemium model isn't for everyone. But Holly, right, I know you are involved in some of the tools who are also considering go from a free trial into the freemium. Do you have any new data point to add to it?
I think this is like such an interesting topic. I was thinking about some of the projects I got involved recently, and some of the other parallels. I think the key is like the level of trust that's needed for the user to get value. What I mean by that is for a product like a Loom, a Miro, or a Slack, or a Figma, you don't require internal data upload or internal data access necessarily to get some kind of value from the product. You can start creating stuff or using the product with some test things, versus for some of these products, like for example, if it's a SaaS product for finance team to see a better dashboard, or if an equivalent of HR, having like HR to hire better candidates, right? All of those almost like require internal data before the user can actually get value. And so that requires a high level of trust, hence a lot harder for a regular user, even if they're a business user, if they're not like the person who has the key to the systems, it's really hard to get value. So I think that almost like the requirement for trust is an interesting variable in that.
I'll jump in just a little bit about trust. Being that security and developer products live and breathe on trusting, not only from an API token perspective, but you have to know how are they ingesting your information if you do want to put information in. What type am I limited to in a freemium or a free version? And from my perspective, it was, and I think we see it now, it's all about testing it out and showing the proof of value ahead of time. It's a lot about specifically around this persona documentation and building the trust through content and demos. I think that's why we see such a high prevalence or dominance of DevRel roles in some of these more technical products, because it's showing at the first half or at the first part, conferences, be it even on platforms like Dev2, here's what I'm doing, here's what I'm building, here's what I would love to ingest or do for you. And that's where you get the community built interest then. And documentation really helps, because then it's no longer, well, who is answering my question? Well, this has already been thought of, here's how to use. And then I think that's where feature requests come in after. It's rather than here's what it is, here's what onboarding looks like, be it in a tool. Most places might not have a UI yet. It's all using a terminal or IDE. That's trust. Having that trust early on was more around the person, the team, and the problems they solved, even without a UI. I think that changed from my time in 2017 up until now, where it's shown by communities rather than a person or a product demo. So I thought, yeah.
This is super interesting, right? Like I've talked to a few folks in the cybersecurity space, and they're like, "Oh, should we try PLG?" And my intuition was, well, cybersecurity is really hard to do PLG because it requires this, access.
That barrier you were talking about, right?
Yeah. Like, have you seen like companies in cybersecurity try PLG, and how is that successful or not successful?
And I think cybersecurity, similar to like MarTech tools right now, you look at the matrix keeps on getting bigger. It depends on vertical, maybe your persona. And I'd say identity within the security space has done it well, because then you just plug into your Microsoft or your Google workspace, or even for password managers, they'll do something similar. But in terms of just an overall security tool right now, it has to be consumer first. There really isn't one where you could do a pure enterprise play without asking IT or going through a procurement cycle. When I led marketing at a cyber insurance firm, that was a different play, because then it was all about going through partners. And I saw like that was helpful, because partners wanted to help play with our clients. So I would say maybe it's more a partner-led play. If it is a traditional application security tool, or maybe a threat intelligence tool in that case. But I think the main answer is it always depends. If you're looking for one that has done it well, I'd say some of the password and identity management tools are the best, because someone like me can play around with it and then invite a team. That would be the more natural progression. Maybe that's similar to Loom or Grammarly. I love it so much. Hey, I'm going to invite my friend. I'm going to invite my colleague. I want to collaborate more. That becomes more of a slower progression into a larger sale. But if I wanted to start a new scanning tool, you'll have to show demo to even get people on the first or second call beforehand.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. It's like the access to personal data is lower barrier. The access to the company data is much higher barrier, and hence it depends on like what's the first step is, and like it could or could not fit the PLG.
Some people even ask me that, what type of single sign-on tool. Josh earlier, before we started this session, said it's easy with SSO. Single sign-on tools like Google. You can just put it on one of my accounts, maybe a fake account or personal account. My enterprise policy won't let me do it, but at least I can seek proof of concept first. I would say that would. I always steer towards GitHub versus signing on with Amazon or Google Cloud or AWS or GCP, because that could enter a foray of different policies that you're not gonna see the value, because the things that we need you to play around with to show, you're limited to. So we always use either most developer facing or security facing tools. You'll see a demo on their site just to see, oh, this is supposed to look like this. Sign up with a sandbox account or sign up for our sandbox playground account. So you don't even have to ask for an API token yet. That's where the level of trust kind of comes into play. A little bit different, and of course, as you mentioned, personal, especially if it's a personal like fake account or mess around account, it's a much easier, a lower barrier of entry.
Wow, very interesting. Always good to learn from across industries. I never thought about the cybersecurity would head up all these concerns. I always consider cybersecurity to be very enterprise-y style. Cool. So I think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Naira had a question. Can the team share some successful PLG tactics? What proven to be the most successful? If okay, I'd like to take this on. I probably will share my screen a bit. So there are quite a few. I gotta say, I really had the fortune to sit very close to a few growth experts in Grammarly, and also get in touch with the people who practice in that outside of the company. So to say a few, I would say probably number one is the product marketing. In this case, I truly think, there you go. Right, we have our expert here. So normally when we talk about tactics, we can easily get into the referrals, right, product loop or growth channels. But really going back to how Grammarly were able to take the shift is really how the product marketers were able to pivot from the student focused tool to the professional, right? How to come up with the product positioning, how to collect the user data, how to come up with the features, and how to making sure follow through, making sure there's a job to be done, and then ultimately how to drop the messaging to deliver that to sounds more compelling, make people feel this is not just a grammar checker tool, right? So I was part of the B2B launch when I joined. I think the product marketing spent a lot of effort in determining how should we turn the B2C to B2B tool, right? Because the Grammarly is a B2C tool. Nobody see that the brand was so well known at the time, right? Nobody would take it seriously as an enterprise function. So I think the product marketing did so much work in identifying what the enterprise, what the business would care more, what feature rank the most. Ultimately, right, it was data security. So there's it was a team communication time loss or money loss. So the whole growth team tailor their growth tactics around that messaging, making sure the top pain point was addressed. So there was the time the team was even discussing, should we ditch the logo, because the logo was right. Ditch the logo. Should we even call that Grammarly at all? Because the consumer brand was so ingrained in people's mind. Should we come up with a new name just so they don't tie us back to someone used in library, school library? But the decision was ultimately it was too hard to ditch the brand, so it was decided to take it on. But I do want to share one example on how what a different company was doing, just for a reference. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. I'll see if it works. So yeah, this is the case. This is one of my favorite tool called Hyperquery. This is the consumer-facing version. It's for the consumer. It is called Next Gen, right? Data Notebook. So it has all the nice features on how the analyst or any program person, right, can do the analysis in one interface. And when they are going into the B2B, they actually, because they are so young, they are still a seed stage company, they actually are able to come up with a new brand called a Titanium AI, called Enterprise Answer Engine. So this is essentially coming from the same team, same technology, but they tailor the tool a little bit more. Instead of calling them the analysis, right, data notebook, they call them the enterprise answer engine. Is basically analysis tool, right? You put a question, the answer is out. So in that case, it positions so much better for the B2B. Yeah, that's one lesson. Any questions before? I actually have a few more I want to share, right? But I want to take a pause, right? Does that resonate?
Oh, you'll have to share all those links. That That's a unique approach. I haven't thought about a very early stage in terms of seed transitioning into just having a new domain, even, let alone just, usually it's just enterprise features. But yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, I think Hyperquery did it's not often. The other one, for example, HeyGen didn't change the name, right? It started from a consumer brand, but then it basically changed all the features and changed all the use case. It changed all the use cases to be the B2B. So it didn't. It decided to carry on. It's hard to change a logo. I think Hyperquery is probably more on the exception side. But most people don't change the logo, but they change the website, right? They change the layout, they change the messaging to be more B2B oriented.
Changing the brand name or changing the logo is so hard, and it just like it reminds me of SurveyMonkey. SurveyMonkey changed their brand to Momentive, and like as they were PLG, and then they were trying to cater to the enterprise customers, and hence they want a more like enterprisey brand, and they changed to Momentive. But it's so hard to really have a new brand into the market, and they lost the brand equity of SurveyMonkey, and then just soon after they had to change back to SurveyMonkey. So that's an example of like, this is a huge decision on, yes, you can think about launching a different brand for enterprise, but it is a very hard thing to pull off.
Yeah, exactly. I think Naira has a lot to say, because FI, right? Naira runs a platform called SiteX, which is trying to take the Qualtrics down the throne as an enterprise survey and experimenting tool. So exactly, the Qualtrics is a much better example than SurveyMonkey. So yeah, this is exactly where I see the newer startup are learning the lessons, right? The newer startup are one, like HeyGen. HeyGen used to call something else, right? HeyGen already changed the logo, but they changed so early, it's compatible to the enterprise. It doesn't drag them down on the consumer. Right now, if you look at this, they're still just Series A company, but it's already pretty much a B2B look and feel, right? And the Hyperquery also, they learn to do that in a more extreme way. So the really lessons learned is for a company to think about B2C to B2B a lot early, right? Grammarly took 10 years to do that. It's almost in between. There is another company called Writer.com, right? Writer just focus on B2B. It doesn't do any B2C at all, right? So we got yeah. So we're trying to take all the lessons into. Got it. Well, enlighten us too, Tim and Naira. You all have a very first hands-on experience too. So yeah, that's I want to briefly pause on that one. Yeah, so basically the product marketing and the positioning, the B2C to B2B transitioning was hypercritical. The other one, I do want to highlight an interesting tactic on the PLG side, where I'm blown away by how creative people can be. So for example, for those who have worked in Grammarly or maybe use that, one of the very successful tactic is just the SEO, right? SEO account for a massive amount of traffic. The team did so well in SEO, where for Grammarly is known that the free tools on the website, in addition to the blog, right? Typically when we talk about SEO, you tend to be the blog writing, and the Grammarly has had so much success by putting the free online grammar checker. That's rank even better, a lot better than just the simple blogging contents. So Grammarly had about how many tools? Stephanie, do you remember how many tools? A handful, right? 5 or 6 maybe. Yeah, grammar checker, plagiarism checker, a handful. So there is a startup who saw this. A startup, basically a GPT wrapper. It does all-in-one writing copilot. This company had a lot of SEO expertise into that. They took the notes, figured out, hey, right, Grammarly, you have 6 tools that can get a ton of traffic. So what we can do? they created over 120 tools. So so they do have in addition to spell checker, in addition to grammar checker, which pretty much is identical to the Grammarly version, they also come up with a ton, such as article rewriter, sentence generator. Actually, a lot of are probably duplicative, but the fact that they have so many tools in place, it dominates a lot of the search attention. And whenever people search about, hey, I want to do a random question generator, I don't know how many are there, but it took in a lot of the organic traffic in there. And I think last time I was checking, this company were able to go from a few 100K to 3 or 4 million per month of traffic in a matter of a few months. So those are just trying to highlight another growth or PLG. I call this PLG tactic too, because it's non-paid media. So yeah.
Yeah, Bei made a really good point around the tools. Yeah, so Beatrice is also +1 on the tools. I think the tools is really powerful, and I see that very often in PLG companies, because the tools, one, it splits the several features of the product into the minimum unit. So when people are looking for a very specific thing, and they can search and find the tool, and it allows SEO to build backlinks, to build authority around each of these tools, and so that the tool is a similar also templates, right? People search for P&L template, right? Like if you can land on a page where the product optimized for P&L template, and you can have I don't know, it's like invoicing template, or I'm talking about potentially a spreadsheet products, right? So you can have hundreds or even thousands of these template pages where you get all the different use cases for the product, and people can come to your website and through the organic search, because they already have the intent. So it's really, really powerful for PLG companies to capture the traffic with the minimum viable unit of the use cases.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to throw maybe a stark comparison. Let me share my screen again, and apology for flashing the screen with the different alternatives. So there are two different styles. I see how people do things. Both are my pretty favorite tools. One is called Monica. Monica is my favorite, one of my favorite writing tool. It has all the nice features, whereas you can, it's a tool you have to register to use, right? It has all the large language model engines in it. It has all the, whenever there is a new feature, you got everything in it. In Monica, you have to register to use, but they are making the user experience so nice. For example, you do a command +M to call it on, and it's the user experience is very smooth, and they make it so useful, and the referral goes a long way, whereas the Hicks, which pretty much does exactly the same thing, right? It does exactly the same thing. Instead of requiring you to log in and use everything, it's basically pull all the features out. You don't have to register to use it. It generates all the attention before you even sign up, whereas after you use, you sign up. So this turned out to be a very powerful tactics. A lot of startups are starting to use this one to grab attention in addition to standard blocks, right? There is I know, Holly, you like to use the Wizard. Wizard AI is the tool where there is on the homepage, you can just upload a video, do the AI video editing directly. There are Medium IO that has hundreds of tools out there, so it's getting very popular, right now nowadays.
I'll slide in with one last tactic. To Naira, I'm not sure. I haven't explored SiteX just yet, but some ideas if you're thinking about either capturing a sign in would be great to start, and then from there give people credits. It's not necessarily a trial or in that case, that's been helpful in terms of just when people are thinking, oh, I have 5 credits, I have 10 credits, they start thinking about how can I get the most bang out of my buck? This is free, but I don't want to spend it on hello world type of queries. So then it moves more into an onboarding of what type of problem are you trying to solve. It helps to validate that very fast on the product team, since I know you have some of your product team here on this call too. You think about credits, whatever that looks like. At TruStar, we did API credits, and that helped us show leverage in terms of our partners and just think about our integration play more. So think about, OpenAI now does credits, in batches of 10 to 100 for developers. If that's your persona, think about that. You still are capturing some sort of intel from their sign in. And then after that, you could do more of a marketing or onboarding of nurture play, saying, here's how others have used their credits. That way isn't time bound, there's no credit card attached to it, but it still helps you validate on, I'm a PM, I'm a developer, I'm a economic buyer, whatever that looks like, and how you want to start thinking about that onboarding can then help validate, well, based on free trial, most people are the users, not the admins. We can start playing around with what type of problems we want to show them. And it helps gear up your sales engineering team, if you have one yet, to give them a much more fruitful demo or sales engineering experience too. So happy to talk more. I know I'm talking more of the developer or security side again, but I think some of those tactics can work on a consumer or general enterprise play.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for sharing. So I do want to build on top of one thing, because on the PLG, I see again another 2 schools of way of doing things for comparison, right? So on the sites like Hicks or Monica, they use the SEO to get more traffic in. Hope some can turn in to traffic, but the downside of that is you get a lot of potentially low intent traffic, right? You might not do the good. You might get a very low intent customer, and the conversion rate might be very low. Whereas I think it's equals, right? We mentioned about equals. Equals sets a high bar to use their tools. So the way I see they mitigate the situation where not many people know what they do is simply by posting animation videos or just a little tutorial, similar to tools like Bardeen. There are quite a few B2B tools that are really hard to understand what's going on. So I think the founder Bobby and the company side do pretty well job in explaining what the tool does, trying to at least get a way to let people opt in. So for example, right, this is one of the sample video where the founder explained, hey, how things are working. So this is basically their lead gen tool in a way to compensate the fact that they don't have that SEO engine running, but this is help funnel the more relevant customers into their potential the lead and the MQL.
That's a good point. Another, we didn't prepare this, but a question I've been thinking about recently is a lot of PLG companies, they start with an individual use case. And as they move more towards mid-market enterprise and going on market, so there's need to create team use case, like multiplayer model. And then, enterprise and transition, there's more like security, privacy, and control and stuff. But the step between individual single player to team multiplayer is a very hard step, like a chasm to cross. What have you seen people try and successful or not successfully in that transition?
Yeah. I can say a few very briefly, right? Beatrice, I'll pass on to you, because this was discussed a lot in the Grammarly time. This is probably one thing the company really probably haven't figured out enough. I think there were a lot of conversations on, hey, how to turn this productivity tools into a team-based tool. Do you want to collaborate writing, right? Do you want to how to turn the individual use case into the team base? So many effort didn't work out. So most people still probably perceive Grammarly as an individual tool, and that's it, right? Writing is lonely, just myself task. You don't break into I don't know how to write. Holly and I, how can we co-write things? Right? It's hard. The company did well by coming up with the brand voice, right? With the team analytics, the typical single sign-on for the team feature. But it's a far less powerful still, really. If you compare to Slack or to Notion, it doesn't really measure up to that standard. But recently, for if you all haven't seen, recently I saw Grammarly actually roll out a feature called app integration, whereas the Grammarly type window was connected to Smart Sheets, Asana, right, Notion, or all the B2B tools where you can send the commands directly into those tools. So in that way, it does get better blended into the B2B tool sets. So let the team use together. So I saw that was a very creative way of turning the individual writing into a command center. So still to be seen how it's working out, but I think from that side, it has been a little bit of a challenge to see it. It's not the easiest one, right? It's not the easiest.
I'll answer one because I'm playing around with it right now on what didn't go well, and then I'll just generalize on what should be built in or thought of in terms of a roadmap. On OpenAI, ChatGPT, you can create your own bot and the GPT store, super cool. Except for I can't collaborate. Even if I pay for the team price, I can't collaborate with others. Let's say if I want to make like a PMM bot, which there are many already. And I want, of course I want to build it, but I want to collaborate with other builders out there and give them access to edit. They can't. So they can only just play as another user. I thought that's really a lacking feature. It's, of course, more to build. So if anyone here has a connect, tell them collaborators want to or users want to collaborate and help building tools that work for their use case and more. And the reason why I think also that will help others is what you need to build that is a unique sharing model. So if I want to share, it's different than sharing and showcasing it on social. I want to share with certain access rights. So that also means that there should be an admin role that also has access to remove, edit, it goes from read only, edit, view only as one. Others would be a dashboard of usage, general usage versus a chat or a history log to ensure that during that collaboration and team that you can always restore also. So I'm giving little nuggets for just to think about what else you'd need. And also, is there a preview? Is there if I did something, can I retract, audit, or preview what I'm changing prior to hitting submit changes? And then finally, in terms of what else is to be used, integrations always are great. Slack is a general one. Zoom might be another. Microsoft Teams, because especially if you are moving upstream, you have to also consider how are they collaborating in your platform, or is it out and then you bring out the work back into the platform after. So just some general ideas as people want to work together, especially in a virtual hybrid age. How do we capture all of that momentum and action back into your tool of choice?
Yeah, good point. Yeah, what I've seen is probably review, like share, comment, and review. And that's one trigger for a team use case. And you want to share stuff within your team so that another person can review or approve. And that's like the use case for Figmas of the world. Is like the designer to a product person or marketing person. That's the use case. Another one I've seen is like shared library. Can our team have a certain set of templates, or can my sales team all have preset call templates within this like a team space, or can all my creative team have a shared design system that can be applied with our own brand voice or like a brand guideline. So that's like the shared library is another use case. for the multiplayer model. And at the same time, I find that some of these are like, it really depends on product. Like, even if we try, it's like, yeah, you should share. But it's like, sometimes the adoption of the share is not that high. So yeah, so that's like, I think the big unlock for a lot of like single player to multiplayer products.
Yeah, I'm not sharing anything I read on Grammarly. No. So another practice I see getting popular. I think Holly, you probably seen this in the software, right? Work. The community has been radically changing how the individual and the team-based value creation looks like. So for example, this recently I was chatting with this tool called MyShell. So MyShell is one of the AI bot tool where you can use a drag and drop to make the bots and help you solve the problem and address your questions. So it's very developer. The bar is pretty high. You get into the interface, it's not easy to figure out how things go, it's like playing Minecraft, right? You have to be really dedicated to it. You have to you don't have to be a developer to do things, but you have to have at least a developer mindset to do this. So I think one way they are successful at doing is to have this Discord community. So this is popular in a lot of Web3, but they were able to recruit a lot of the top creators onto the platform, and the top creators, so they have a channel called Creator Only. So those creators are showcasing the rest of the people on, hey, how am I doing things, right? And I'd be happy to teach you how to do things. So in a way, it turned into a lonely, pretty high bar tool into a very happy and a collaborative community tool. And that tool right now is dominating other platforms such as Flow GPT and a few other AI bots. So it's creating a herd events. So I think, Holly, if I'm not mistaken, that's used by a few of the other platforms too, right? When the software community was publishing a few examples, there is also a little bit of an effect on that one, right? Can you comment on this one a bit?
I don't have a lot of comment on this one, though. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Got it. Yeah. So that's fine. So basically, but I do want to highlight. I see a few products are utilizing the communities in different ways. I mean, Discord is just the channel. Sometimes it's a more platform agnostic.
Cool. I think we're almost at time. Any final one or two sentence takeaways for the audience?
You mean for us?
From Bei and Beatrice, and anything else you wanted to
I'll do one. I wouldn't say it's a spicy hot take. It is coming up more and more, the term founder-led sales, especially around the early stage motion. There's nothing wrong with founder-led sales. The rise of founder-led sales against product-led depends on what vertical you're in, but founder-led sales means that you are closest to the product. This is your passion. So being able to stand at the forefront, understand what someone's looking for, either say we don't have it on the roadmap, or you can, and then that's where you suss out pricing, how to position it. The feedback is really pivotal at that point. And product-led is always where you can either create a lighter product, maybe one of those tools as a lead magnet, and then see what fits from there. Numbers will always help drive what we'll do next. But as I've seen more and more webinars around founder-led versus product-led, there shouldn't be any difference. It is still a growth metric and tactic, or a growth tactic to use. It just depends on what type of sales are you looking for. A larger sale, great. Founder-led is awesome. A slow usage validation, product-led is great too. It really depends on what you're looking for and how to really enter that market, cross that chasm again.
Yeah, good summary. I think similarly, the the PLG is neither overrated or underrated, just one tactic, right? So, and once there was a founder came to me to say, hey, we need to do the PLG because everyone is talking about it, I must be using it, right? After some analysis, no, the company was meant for SLG, so go do the sales. So it's not higher or lower than other tactics. We just gotta take it properly. The second part is, I think there are plenty of examples. I think right now it's the golden age of doing the growth because I feel rarely one has to invent anything new. There are so many good examples, and we can easily bucketize them into a few categories, and then figuring out which category is the most suitable for me. So it's not too hard to come up with the analysis and just to learn from it, just copy. It's not wrong. There's nothing bad about copying what's working. So frankly, I think it's probably easier than ever to find the right tactics to growth. Probably it's a little bit harder to navigate through the noises. Maybe there will be someone whispering left and right, but hopefully the proper analysis can help anchor the product you want to build into the right example. There are just so many experiments. People already done it, right? No need to reinvent, really.
Yeah, +1 on that. So we're at time. Thank you everyone for joining, and looking forward to see you next time. Thank you. Thank you, Wei.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Beatrice.
everyone.